So for dessert, we have apple pie. These are Granny Smith apples, the sour green kind of apple. And for the dough, or the pie crust, it's 2.5 cups flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 cup of vegan butter or margarine, and you're going to use a fork and mash in the butter like this. And then you add 6 tablespoons of water or almond milk. You add in the butter gradually into cubes, cut it into cubes, and add the butter in gradually, and then mash it with a fork. Let it become crumbly, and then you add the milk and stir in the milk until everything forms into a ball. Put in the refrigerator for an hour. I'm mixing in 6 tablespoons of almond milk, 6 tablespoons of almond milk, or you can do 6 tablespoons of water. And it's 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, like I mentioned earlier. 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of vegetable shortening or vegan butter. Some people use oil, but I prefer the consistency of vegan butter and vegetable shortening. It's gonna come together pretty soon. I just have to add 3 more tablespoons of almond milk. It's been rolled into a bowl now. I'm just gonna cover it over with plastic and put it in the fridge. Gonna let it chill for like an hour. Make sure you rinse these well. You rinse them well and then peel them and slice them thinly. And you're going to be adding cinnamon. I'm adding this. This is optional. You don't have to add it. This is salt, some nutmeg, half a teaspoon nutmeg, cornstarch, vanilla, white sugar, and brown sugar. I like to do both. Some people like to do white sugar, some people like to do brown sugar, but I just like to do both for flavor. You're gonna mix these in a separate bowl, which is the filling. For the pie filling, I also add 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, or you can do vegan butter. This is going to be in the pie filling. So you're going to use around 6, 7, or 8 Granny Smith apples. They're the sour green apples, like this kind. And the sour flavor goes really nice with sugar. So I'm just going to cut these in quarter pieces and take out the core. And I peeled them earlier. Just make sure that you take off the skin. Take off all the skin so that there is no skin on your apple. I find that this kind of knife is better for the core, because the big knife is a bit difficult to take out the core and without splitting the apple in half. So the core comes out very easy with this. Just for the skin though, I like to use the peeler or a knife like this, straight sharp knife. But for the core, a knife like this works a bit better. They also have these kind of core removers that you can buy, but I don't have one of those, so I'm just using this. But I have seen the apple core removers. I have seen the apple core removers before. I'm going to rinse this because some of the core, pieces from the core got dispersed, so just to make sure that there's no core pieces or pieces of seed in it, just rinse it again to make sure that it doesn't get into your pie. That looks so much better. We don't want any core pieces in this, so I'm going to just slice them thinly. Slice it into thin slices like this. So the apples have been sliced thinly. Now you're going to add half a cup white sugar and brown sugar, half cup. Now I'm going to add half a lemon. You can add lemon zest if you want along with the lemon juice. Add around 3 to 5 tablespoons of cornstarch. The cornstarch is optional and it's basically to help thicken your filling. Add 2 tablespoons of coconut oil or melted vegan butter, or 2 tablespoons vegetable oil. I'm doing 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. Half a teaspoon salt. Half a teaspoon nutmeg, 2 or 3 teaspoons of cinnamon, ground cinnamon. Some people do 1 teaspoon, some people do 2. It really depends on your preference, how much cinnamon you prefer. I like to add usually 2 or 3 teaspoons personally. We're not done yet. We have to add the vanilla, whiskey, and caramel extract. 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. 1 teaspoon caramel extract, optional, you don't have to add it, but I like to just for flavoring and dimension. 2 tablespoons of whiskey, also optional. I've been on a theme recently of cooking with more liquor and alcohol, and now I'm trying out a little bit of whiskey in the apple pie, which a lot of people add to their apple pie, but it's optional and you don't have to do it. Really depends on your preference. But I find that bourbon really complements apple in general, and it goes well together with anything that has apple in it or cinnamon. So flavor wise, I think it's a match when it comes to apples and anything with apple and cinnamon. It really complements those kinds of flavors. So if you add it into a pie or any of your desserts that uses apples and cinnamon, it's a really good addition in terms of flavor. The caramel also tastes really nice too with the spices. The cornstarch is to thicken things a bit, so people usually add 3 to 5 tablespoons cornstarch, but you don't have to add that. That's just to make sure things get a bit thick. And nutmeg, a little bit of nutmeg is good too, just for flavor, so that the apple pie doesn't taste bland or doesn't taste boring. You know, it's good to add different things to it so it doesn't taste like a boring plain apple pie, unless you want to keep it that way. And also there's 2 tablespoons coconut oil, and like I said before, you can substitute the coconut oil with vegetable oil or vegan butter, melted vegan butter. Half a cup of white sugar, half a cup brown sugar. And that is the filling. I'm also adding 1 tablespoon of Canadian maple syrup, the real Canadian maple syrup, not the fake one. because I'm aware they have lots of fake maple syrups out there, and I've mainly bought the real stuff just because they have kind of an award or a classification, grade A and all this. So this one is an amber, kind of medium colored maple syrup, and I like the medium to dark colored maple syrups for cooking, you know, like putting in pies and pastries and all that. So just for flavoring, maple syrup also complements things with apple and cinnamon and whiskey and all that. So it's good to add. You can add as much maple syrup as you want, but it really brings out a nice flavor and dimension to your desserts that use apple and cinnamon. Give everything a good mix. Round before we roll out our dough, the base and the topping. Grease and lightly flour your pie dish. Now we're going to be rolling out the dough. If your dough is kind of stiff and has a lot of cracks in it, you can just knead in some water or almond milk so that it doesn't get all crumbly and falls apart or anything like that. Just add some water so that it forms into a ball. So divide your dough into 2 balls. Lightly flour your rolling pin and surface area. We're gonna roll these out. One's gonna be the base and one's gonna be the top for the pie. So you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You're just going to, with a fork, gently press into the base of the dough. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Okay. And I'm going to add the filling and then cover it over. So it already smells so amazing and so nice, but we have to cover it over and put it in the oven. Just make sure that it's a bit evenly spread when you put it in your pie dish or pie tin. And now carefully put the top over it. So I just trimmed the edges a bit, and I'm gonna go in with my fork around the crust area. Just a simple kind of nothing too fancy, just a simple design, nothing too crazy, but you can decorate yours however you want. Brush with coconut oil or melted vegan butter and sprinkle 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and sugar on top. Then we're gonna put it in the oven. Just gonna go around the edge with this as well. One tablespoon of coconut oil or vegan butter, melted, or you could do vegetable oil. Now let's get the 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of white sugar. You can do brown sugar as well, but I'm gonna do some white sugar. Great, so I just cut 4 lines like that and put it in your oven at 350 degrees and bake for about an hour. 60 minutes, bake it for an hour. until it turns golden brown, until the crust turns a golden brown color. It is finally ready. It smells amazing. I can't wait to have a bite.